What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
The breather plug is a valve for communication with the atmosphere, an indispensable element of all more or less large hollow units of machinery in which there is lubricant and air. When shafts and gears rotate inside a sealed unit, their friction heats the oil and the air above it. Consequently, both liquid and gas increase in volume. After all, oil is never filled to the top. There is always an air cushion above it. A void, in other words. This empty space allows the oil to rise as it heats up, but not leak out. The node got hot from movement, the oil expanded and some of the air escaped into the atmosphere. The car stopped, the assembly cooled down, the oil decreased in volume, and the rarefaction pulled the missing air inside. Therefore, the pressure inside is always atmospheric, zero, in simple terms. To ensure equal pressure inside and outside, a simple hole in the upper part of the unit, the gearbox housing or axle gearbox, is sufficient in principle. However, it is impossible to make a simple hole. Through it, abrasive sandust can get inside, to oil and gears, when driving on dusty roads, and moisture, when washing or driving in the rain. And when parking under a significant slope can flow and the oil itself. Although the breather valve in the form of a simple hole, covered with an air-permeable felt plug, can be found, for example, in nodes of small volume and working not with liquid, but with grease, for example, in the gearboxes of large and powerful bolt cutters or circular saws. But in automobiles, where this valve is primarily found in gearboxes, transfer boxes on four-wheel drive vehicles, as well as in the gearboxes of axles, the breather valve is somewhat more complicated. In automobiles, it is a small threaded fitting with a through hole, screwed into the body of one or another automobile unit or mechanism. From the top, this fitting is closed with a movable, capable of moving and rotating slightly vertically when pressed, cap cup. And under the cap, the end of the fitting is covered with a rubber disc, a kind of tablet, which is pressed to the fitting by a spring. Actually, this disc is a valve element of the breather. The construction is elementary, but there are some important nuances in its work, which not everyone knows. Let's see how it works. As they say, in the basic version. By all means, there should always be atmospheric pressure inside the unit housing, where there is a breather plug, no overpressure or vacuum. But in fact, if you start unscrewing the breather plug or at least just vigorously move its cap up and down and to the right and left, achieving the shift of the pill, you can hear a quiet pishik. And the bang can be a consequence of both slight overpressure and slight rarefaction. But both are normal, not a malfunction. The car starts. The gears and shaft spin, friction warms them, and they warm the oil. It expands, warming and compressing the air layer above it. The air pressure inside the gearbox or axle rises. But the calibrated spring in the breather is extremely weak and presses the rubber pill with negligible force of 10 to 12 grams. As soon as the pressure reaches some negligible value, barely above atmospheric, it is released into the atmosphere, lifting the pill. Having overcome the resistance of the weak spring, the vehicle has stopped. The units have started to cool down. Temperature and oil level are decreasing. Air pressure inside is also decreasing. Gradually, a rarefaction is formed inside the axle, as the spring presses a rubber pill to the end of the breather fitting, sealing the axle. However, eventually the pressure inside, albeit with some delay, will become atmospheric. Why? Recall that the spring is very, very weak. And the rubber pill is not a precision valve with perfectly lapped seat and disc. The breather is not designed to hold the vacuum for a long time. It is inherent in its design. It is necessary. It lets atmospheric air into the unit at approximately the same rate at which the vacuum grows there synchronously with oil cooling. So, although there is a rarefaction inside, it is insignificant and short-lived. And the third situation. Actually, it is in this situation that the tablet and the spring will play their role, because in the first two, systematic heating, while driving and slow cooling down in the parking lot, it was quite possible to do without them. The breather would work successfully, being just a hole communicating the crankcases of the units with the atmosphere. And this situation is a sharp cooling at flooding of gearboxes of axles, transfer cases, and boxes at sudden getting into a deep puddle, or conscious overcoming of Fords. In this case, the rarefaction inside the units occurs quickly and reaches noticeable values. For example, heated to 90 degrees rear. Axle can get into a deep scour of melt water with a temperature of about 0. Here to the force of the compression spring is added a jump in rarefaction, which even more strongly sucks the pill to the end of the socket, not allowing the water, which can easily overflow through the level of the breather, sucked inside the gearbox or gearbox. The breather is self-sealing and quite reliable. When cooling the unit for a short period of time, albeit quite abruptly, the breather plug successfully protects its internal volume from water penetration from the outside. But what happens if you have to stay in water up to the hub, or even deeper, for a long time? Say, when the assault on a Ford is prolonged or the SUV is stuck in a swamp. In this case, it is very likely that water will be sucked into the oil through the rubber seals, the oil seals of the half axles or ball joints. The oil seals have a profile that provides some self-sealing, but not against water from the outside, but against oil from the inside. The gland is generally sealed in both directions due to the constant compression from the ring spring, but in the direction outward. Its elasticity is still noticeably higher than vice versa, due to the shape of the profile. And if a new original seal can successfully resist water sucked in from outside by vacuum, then a worn and or low-quality packing gland is unlikely to do so, although they can hold transmission oil perfectly in both cases. For this reason, most owners of off-road vehicles, especially new ones, do not trust, and quite rightly, the breathers in their standard version. They cut off the cap from them, throw away the spring and tablet, put thin hoses on the remaining connector and lead them from the front to the underhood space, and from the rear, in a cavity in the wing inside the trunk or in the lantern cavity. In general, in a clean dry place and higher. In this case, the valve in the breather becomes unnecessary, and its role of communication with the atmosphere it continues to successfully perform. But the owners of highway cars do not need this procedure at all. However, if you are not the owner of an off-roader, the breather can cause trouble when it gets clogged or simply turns out to be a product of a low-quality manufacturer. The fact is that for all its simplicity, this part requires a very high accuracy and repeatability in manufacturing. The spring must be strictly calibrated for the compression force. The tab must be made of very high-quality rubber, which does not allow deformation and sticking from oil and temperature. Warping and jamming of the cap is categorically inadmissible, etc. Defects and carelessness in the breather design cause its rapid contamination or sticking, which leads to oil squeezing out through the oil seals when heated, and vice versa, easy passage of water inside, which leads to the formation of oil emulsion. If even the breather is initially high quality and not left, it, despite its full, at first glance, autonomy and self-sufficiency, requires periodic maintenance, expressed in a simple moving and cranking the cap by hand. This prevents it from becoming overgrown with dirt inside and souring the pill. Although sometimes low-quality control of the manufacturer, mainly it concerns the domestic car industry, makes car owners interfere with modifications and in a conditionally serviceable unit. For example, there are known not infrequent cases of oil emissions through the breather on the gearbox of front-wheel drive VAZ old models. Since garage practice, and even, it seems, some official letters of Avtovaz, recommended pouring oil into the box a little more than the nominal volume, the air cushion above the oil level was insufficient to compensate for thermal expansion. The lubricant began to leak through the breather and flow through the box body. Drivers in such a situation took it out on a short hose hire, as it is customary for Jeepers. Or take the rear axle breathers on VAZ Classics, Volgas, and iJars of the troubled 90s, when everything was done by feet. The quality of manufacturing of components was so terrible that the factories deliberately removed both the spring and the pill from the breather, putting the cap back on and making the breather, thus, a simple hole, just as long as it somehow worked and did not squeeze oil outside. And if the owners of such cars did not drive on the beds of streams and did not park on the mountains, they did not experience special problems from such simplification, and often even did not know about it. In conclusion, the breather plug plays a crucial role in maintaining the efficiency and longevity of your equipment. By allowing air to flow in and out, it helps to prevent pressure buildup and ensures proper lubrication. Regular servicing of the breather plug is essential to avoid potential issues and to keep your machinery running smoothly. By understanding its function and importance, you can take proactive steps to ensure optimal performance. Thank you for watching. and we hope this video has provided you with valuable insights into the breather plug.